Hello and welcome to the April edition. April. It is April, which is my birthday. It's my birthday next week. The April edition of the B2B Comms Breakdown. And after last month's experiment of the LinkedIn audio event, we are back to visual. We prefer video. We can record it, and people can see us and hear us, and we can see and hear each other, and it's a lot easier. Anyway, so I will properly introduce myself. I am Io Abbas. I am a marketing consultant, speaker, trainer, content creator, and just generally me. And I work for myself, and I've got my own firm called Abbas Marketing.
And I am Stacey Meadwell, former property, at least said content journalist then.
Content journalist, that's who you are.
Former content journalist.
Yeah.
I'm a former property journalist who produced a lot of content, turned content creator and content strategist working with businesses in the built environment sector.
Woo-hoo!
I also do training as well. So I train people to write and do media training as well.
I know. I started doing LinkedIn and all this kind of other stuff, which is actually quite good fun. Or good. So today,
if you are watching live, I should do the live announcement.
Yes.
If you are watching live, please pop a comment in the comments below the screen so that we know people are watching. Put an emoji, put something in there just so that we know people are watching live. Hey, we have somebody. Hi, John.
John Lacey. I was actually going to say maybe put a vegetable emoji in there, but that's a bit weird.
No. That's too dangerous.
My mind. Really bad.
That's a slippery slope.
Oh yeah. Anyway, aubergines going on there. So today we are talking.
Hi, Ruth.
Today we're talking about storytelling, and businesses have many stories to share. Yeah. And it's a question of whether you are finding them and telling them in the right way to communicate effectively. So storytelling, when done well, is a powerful content marketing tool. It sure is. It can help you connect and build trust with existing and potential clients and actually make you stand out from the crowd. But more on all of that in a moment.
And I just want to say we've got loads of people commenting. Hi, Ruth. Hi, Fimona. Hi, Lawrence. Thank you very much. And hello, sunny Cape Town. Your name isn't coming up, but hello. I'm just going to use sunny Cape Town.
I reckon that's Hillary Alexander.
Very, very jealous that you're in sunny Cape Town. Anyway, the format for today is we're going to be talking for about 20 to 30 minutes. We will only keep you for 30 minutes maximum. And we are going to be talking about what storytelling is in B2B, why it's important, and how to tell stories effectively. As always, we want to hear from you. So we're enjoying all your comments. Do add your comments, thoughts, questions. And, if you've got a question, we will come back to it probably towards the end. But we'd love to hear from you. So hopefully you're all sitting comfortably. Now we shall begin. Sorry, I couldn't resist that as we're talking about storytelling. First question I'm going to ask is, what is storytelling in B2B, Io?
Okay, so I mean, I have to confess that I did a session on storytelling for Architizer magazine with Nikita Morel earlier this year. So a lot of it is from that, because repurposing, that's one of the things.
Sensible.
Exactly. So storytelling is the act of telling, writing, and about sharing stories. And it's very much it's a powerful way to build relationships and connect with people. And I guess provoke emotion, right? And connection. That's really what it's all about. And it's quite an interesting one, because a lot of kind of B2B companies still believe that storytelling doesn't matter to them. It's not as important. And I think that's where they're missing a trick. So for me, storytelling is about telling a story and connecting.
Yeah, and I completely agree with that. And I think, just to add to that, I think storytelling at its heart is about engaging your audience intellectually and emotionally. And I hate to, people run a mile when you say the word emotions, but that's what we're drawn to. And this can be by, humanizing, adding a human element. It's about being relatable and taking your audience on some sort of journey. having a narrative to your messages. The facts are that you have a business, you have services or products, and you have customers. I see storytelling as the sort of the narrative that brings those elements together and relays the messages around those things in an engaging and relatable way. And that could be things like, talking about the challenges, resolution, value that surrounds all of these things. But it's kind of like the sort of the connecting tissue that relays your messages more effectively. So that's what I think. I think
I love that.
is.
I love that thing you said about connective tissue, because it is that, isn't it? It kind of weaves it all together. And I'll never forget, like, whenever we have like kick-off at the beginning of the school year, like Lucas teachers always talk. He says teacher, he does go on a lot, but she's always talking about stories and how important reading is and connecting is. And it's all about what it does to your brain and your mind as well, and how you make associations and you learn more and you take more in. And I think that resonates in B2B as well. It makes it more memorable. So I think storytelling is just a really kind of powerful way of getting your word out there, definitely. Okay, so the next question is mine. So why is it important, Stacey?
Well, you've already touched upon there about the connection and how you can connect with your audience. I mean, there's a reason that storytelling is as old as humans. You go back to cave paintings, those were all stories. We all engage with stories. Humans tend to remember more from stories, more than they do from you just giving them a bunch of facts. If you weave a story, you paint a picture around it, that's going to be far more memorable than just, saying this is what we do and this is, this is how much it costs, that sort of thing. If you can weave a story around your products, your services, what your business is about, your values, it will be far more memorable to your audience. It will forge those connections. And I think connection is the really important thing here, because there is, we're going to talk a bit more about how you use storytelling and go into a bit more detail. But it is a really important way of forging those connections. It's kind of breaking down those barriers. It's about human to human, I think.
And I think the whole thing about forging those connections is that whole thing as well, that it can also attract the right clients towards you. So they'll know your humor, they'll know what you're like, they'll know the way that you work. But also it can repel the ones that you don't want to work with. They'll be like, oh, you're too right on, you're too this, that, and the other. And I guess like some stories that you share, actually, you might get some unsubscribes when you send an email on certain topics. But actually, if that's important to you and your values and what you do, then that's fine. You know what I mean? So I think stories are a way of kind of attracting the right people towards you and repelling those that you really don't want as well. And I think as well, it just makes you more memorable. That thing about they connect more and they sink in more. So people will understand why I want to work with that person. Or when they're suddenly like someone asks for, can you recommend somebody? And then, you want to be front of mind. And I think stories help you to be front of mind and memorable, which is really important from a marketing sense. And I think as well, they also help you understand why you're different. So that experience, that value, what you bring to the table, your stories are the things that you can share and go, and this happened when, or I did this when, and that was the result of it. And I think stories are a great way of kind of sharing that your expertise without necessarily being too in your face, because actually it's an example of what you believe or what you've done, or, it's a different way. It's like a more subtle way, but highly, highly effective. So sorry, go into those.
It's a couple of things that popped into my mind as you were talking then is it's a way of, you can be creative with storytelling. And there are so many different ways to tell stories. There are so many different ways to approach it. So it can become a point of difference. And the second point is it set the tone for your business, and what you're like as a business, what your people are like. It can be a really effective way of reflecting your values and what you are like to work with. The style of how you tell your stories.
Definitely. I mean, the one that stands out is Dave Harland, right? The ultimate storyteller and telling a yarn, basically, right? But that's it. You know that if you want comic style writing and you're that type of client, go to him. He is like the king of it, and that's what he's known for. And I think, but it's always these madcap stories that you're like, this is just crazy, or his Uncle Tony. And I think that's it. Stories are a way to kind of make you stand out and be memorable. And yeah, definitely.
A comment from John is, I think it helps if stories are real. Yes. I mean, I think you can, yes, you don't want to kind of make stuff up and mislead people. Definitely not. But I think also there, you can have fun. There are fun things that you can do.
Yeah.
You can set a scene and have an imagined scenario and then use that as an intro into talking about a real scenario. So there's a lot of.
It doesn't have to be really dry. I think that's the thing, is that it doesn't have to be really dry. It can be interesting, but I agree. I mean, I have to admit, I'm not. The ones that are really long-winded stories, I find my brain just switches off and I can't be bothered. So as long as it's like not too long, and then that's fine. And you're right; it does need to have some kind of business, like some reasoning behind it, rather than purely just craziness.
It's like what we call, because my background is features writer, features editor, and it's what we would call the slow burn intro, where you kind of set a scene. It's like the celebrity interview. We were sat in a cafe in Clerkenwell and such a celebrity walks in and they're looking a bit flustered, and this is the slow. I don't gravitate towards that. It works for some people, doesn't work for others. I think get to the point. Anyway, we're kind of jumping ahead and talking about how to do it. But yes, the slow burn. Now we know what it's called. It tends to be used more in magazines, glossy magazines. The start of intro there. But yeah, I mean, you can harness all of these. You can harness all of these techniques. I think it's all there. Comes back to what I was saying about being creative. We've kind of started moving on to how to tell stories. So, how do you tell stories effectively, Io?
I think understanding who you're writing for has to be at the heart of it and why you're doing it. And I guess that is something that I guess it matters to all types of content marketing, isn't it? What's your goal of this and why are you sharing this story? What's that message you're really looking to get out and why? And I think, just having that in the back of your mind and then thinking about how you can share it in an imaginative way, and sometimes, just, I mean, I guess the normal thing is having a hook and then you've got the main body and then you got some kind of drama and then it kind of closes off and you have some summary. But you can invert that or do something different or start at the beginning, start at the end and then work your way back to the beginning. Or so there's loads of things you can do to kind of make a story more interesting. So it doesn't always have to follow the same structure, which I think is quite important, because I think it's quite easy just to get into, I write in this way and this is what I do. So just trying to mix it up a bit, I think is quite important. I mean, should we do these alternate? Do you want to do one? And then I do one. And
I mean, I think for a starting point, I mean, the two key areas for me is you've got to know who your audience are. Who are you trying to talk to? Because that will shape your story. And if you're not telling a story or, in a way that your audience will engage or resonate with, then it doesn't matter what your message is. It's not going to get through. I think, the key points is your audience and what the message is. And you have to find the best narrative, the best way of getting your message across to that particular audience. And I think good storytelling brings those elements together. And it can be, it can be quite explicit, but it can be, I think I do a lot of ghostwriting of thought leader. And I think thought leader, there are a lot of storytelling techniques that I use when writing thought leader, because you're taking the reader on a journey through ideas more than, this is what we do, or a service or a product. And it's more subtle. You're not going to go in for a hard sell. It's more then I'm thinking about how will people feel as a result of reading this? What do I want them to think when after they have finished reading this? So I think it's understanding, what your goals are, and and how you were going to deliver that. And it can be, you know, it might be sort of, you want, you know, is it a specific call to action? Do you want them to pick up the phone and work with you? Do you want them to kind of subscribe to your newsletter? Do you want them to comment on a post on LinkedIn? Do you want them to feel about your business, or you as a representative of your business in a certain way? And think about how your narrative and your tone is going to. I've got more to say, but I'll hand back over to you, because otherwise I'll just be off. I've got a whole.
I know. That's what I thought. That's why I thought. Actually, let's split this out.
Do add a question. Sorry, if you've got a question, just please do pop it into the comments, or you know, we're enjoying we can see your comments as they pop up on the screen. So, and
if you don't agree with us, feel free to say. It's no problem.
Yes, absolutely. Do disagree.
So how can you tell stories effectively? So I think the other thing is, I had your goal and why, but also I think you've got to kind of thinking about what it is that you really want to be known for. And I think that boils back down to the whole kind of content pillars and your stories kind of having a kind of, you know, you've got some subject matter areas or some topics that you want to be known for, and always kind of having that in the back of your mind as well, so you don't go too far off, because like John said, it does need to relate to, you know, reality and business in a way, especially because in a B2B context. So I think having that kind of framework behind you, so you kind of know the stories I tell need to kind of be in this realm, you know, that's my realm of authority. Yeah, and that's it. And I think having that in the back of your mind is really, really important, because otherwise you can completely go off course and be like, yes, this is what I have for dinner. Who cares? So I do think that's another thing about effective storytelling.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, you know, getting a little bit sort of nitty gritty here, I think about who your protagonist is, your hero is, and who your antagonist is in a story. And that doesn't need to be a person. It can be a particular product, a service, a situation in both of those scenarios. And if you're thinking about, because, you know, you're weaving a narrative here, you are telling a story. So who is the hero of your journey, of your narrative, of the journey of the story? But it might be a product, or, you know, you might be telling a story about how a particular service or a product helped somebody, and therefore the service or the product is the hero. You know, the antagonist might be, you know, the problems that ensue from, you know, that would have ensued having not gone down that route, or the, you know, the antagonist is a changing regulatory landscape or whatever it is, you know. So you know, I would sort of like break it down and have a think about, you know, those, you know, storytelling. My immediate thought of storytelling is sitting cross-legged in front of the teacher, then reading a story at the end of the day when I was school. But actually, there's a lot you can learn from classic storytelling, and there are elements, and you apply it to how you're telling stories about your business, about your services, about yourself, and who you are. So think about where those tensions are in your story, because a good story will have a bit of a tension or a bit of drama there. You know, there'll be maybe a change of direction.
I was going to say, and actually what you're talking about, it also ties into your love of theatre, right, and film, because it's that, and it's like, how do you build up suspense? How do you keep up momentum? You know, and it's that kind of motion. It's quite funny. I had a briefing call yesterday for an event we're doing for Build Up in June about filmmaking and videography. And it was quite lovely talking to filmmakers, because it was very much about, you know, when we get the brief, we're really trying to understand really what the story is, what's the real story of this building and the people behind it. And it's how do you capture that? And, you know, how do you capture it in film? How do you capture it in all of your content and tell that story? And it's actually quite beautiful when you kind of take it through different mediums, from film to audio to just different ways, to words, to carousels, you know. But I think it's finding that kind of, like we said, that connective tissue.
It's finding a through path.
To do that.
Yeah. And it then, you know, yes, I'm a huge film fan, I'm a huge theatre fan. But also a lot of this comes from when I was a features writer, because you know, writing features, you're taking your reader on a journey, and you're looking for where the tension is in the story that you're telling through those ideas or that analysis. You know, but and however are very, very powerful tools to use in storytelling, because you're taking people on a journey in one direction, and there's like however. And it's a really good way of keeping people hooked through a story, because they think they're going in one direction. Surprise. It's the element of surprise. And,
But isn't there like a old school writing thing where people are like, don't use the word but, don't use the word however, like I had that for a while, where I'm sure I had clients when I was working and they were like, you can't use that. And it's like,
it's that, I mean, that comes from academic writing, that comes from school. That's what you're taught in school, but when you leave school, you don't have to, I have had conversations about starting a sentence with but. It's how you talk. And I think if you write how you're taught at school, it's horrible. It's horrible. It's not engaging, because at the end of the day, the thing to remember with storytelling is you are trying to reach an audience. Nobody is paid to read what you have written, whereas at school your teacher is paid to read what you've written. So it doesn't really matter whether it's engaging or not. They've got to read it because they've got to mark your work. So
I have to admit,
this is why harness all these tools, all the storytelling tools. Yeah, because I liberally use however and but in
I was going to say,
writing.
I was going to say, like, honestly, like some of the stuff that Luca brings home from school for his writing, it's so boring. It's like, I write for a living and I have no idea what this means. It's just really bad. But anyway, so that's kind of true.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing I was going to, sorry.
Go for it.
Did you have something?
No.
The other thing I was going to add is, and it comes back to the point we were making about getting creative, is having different structures, trying different things. It can make keep your content exciting and interesting, and help you stand out from the crowd, because you can get creative. I mean, obviously keep your key messages and those things and your strategy at the back of your mind, but as long as it's kind of fitting in with that. And
also, and I think if you're looking for, like, that's where actual stuff like ChatGPT can actually be really useful, like different ways to start this and things like that, because sometimes you can get into a rut of everything's the same structure. Using it for some kind of different options and variations can be a really good use of time. And it's just to give you a different structure or a different thing. I actually think AI tools can actually be very good for that.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things what's not something to use a lot, but one of the things I like to do when, and I still use it occasionally on thought leader pieces, is to start off with something that is unexpected and goes against the sort of what everyone naturally believes, and then the journey is bringing people back to how you came to that sort of opener. So it's those little techniques. I just want to, because John's commented on my Hamlet poster. Yes, that is a Hamlet poster.
Important. Really important.
Yes. Really important. That is Hamlet, and it's David Tennant, and it is signed. You can't see the signature, but it is signed. The others aren't theatre related, I'm afraid. The others, one is La Sagrada Familia, and the other is a Anthony Gormley exhibition from the South.
That's correct to completion. Sorry, no, completely, because Arrett's been working on that, haven't they? The restoration, which is beautiful. Anyway, I think we're slightly digressing today. Anyway, sorry about that.
So you've got a comment here. I think starting a sentence with but or however gives the reader a signal that there's an important thought to follow. Yes, exactly. Yes, and it can be like a change of pace, a slight change of direction. And it comes back to the kind of, if you think of films and theatre and that kind of stuff, there's always it's a little bit of a cliffhanger, but use that in your content. It's the equivalent of a little cliffhanger, or something big happening that changes the direction of where the narrative goes.
And we've also got a comment from Ruth as well, which says, spoke to a potential client yesterday. I told them they needed to have a conversation and throw out the rule book, start sentences with and. They said this was something they struggle with. And you're right, it's the education thing, right? Yeah.
I've only come across it once, and fortunately there were a few of us that all were on the same page, so it got shut down pretty quickly.
It's also,
and
I think it's also
like,
an age thing, right?
Do you want?
It's also an age thing as well, right? It's quite it's an old school thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's kind of one of those things.
But it's well, it depends on how old you think, because we started sentences with and but when I was a journalist, and I was there for 20 years, a very long time. So we're going back to the last century,
200 years.
And it never cropped up. It was just because at the end of the day, you're talking to a real human being. So talk in a way that, write in a way that people understand and is familiar. You want to
I do think there is a school
voice.
of thought that it's like it's all got to be proper and blah blah blah. But it's very odd.
I think that comes from someone was saying actually that when you go and do an MBA, they teach you to write in a certain way and talk in a certain way. It's like, a lot of architects talk in a certain way, and it's just like, but you've got to talk in the way of, you've got to talk in a way that's familiar to the people that you're trying to communicate with. I just started a sentence with and.
The next question from John Lacey, which is another humdinger, obviously. So how might you tell a B2B story with David Tennant?
How might I tell a B2B story with what, about him? Or with him, or what? I don't.
You've I'm not met sure him, though, haven't you?
No.
Have you not?
No.
I don't think you had. Oh, okay.
No, I haven't. No, I haven't. I haven't met him. If I was telling a story about David Tennant, I think, yes, John, your point about knowing the audience and knowing who are you trying, I think if you're telling a story about David Tennant, you're probably going to want to appeal to Doctor Who audiences, because he's got a massive fan base from Doctor Who audiences. So that would be my approach, is what would the Doctor Who fan want to know? What would they be interested in?
So I don't know all the stuff he's been in. Okay, so LinkedIn user, which I'm sure is Hillary, in the built environment where we're already dealing with sometimes with complex technical terms, which we are, overloading the content with language that is too complicated could lose the reader completely. And that's so true. And I think for me, one of the key parts of like stories and projects and write-ups and process is the fact that you never know who your reader is. Like, it could be their PA who's doing the first sift. And like they might not be a technical person at all. So how do you make it so that it can capture them and draw them in? So you do need to think about the language because of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I see a lot of my job as being a translator, because all the content I write starts with a conversation. It's like, well, okay, the client has all this knowledge and understands this topic, but the audience that they're trying to reach don't. So I'm translating what they're saying into a language that their audience can understand, because I figure that if I can understand it, then I can write it in a way that their audience can understand it.
Do you know what? I said that once to a room of engineers and they were really offended.
What, that you said that nobody understands how they speak?
Yeah, I said I'm a translator and they were really offended. Let's just say, like, okay.
But it's the truth. It's the truth. I mean, it's like, when I was a journalist, we had when I was a journalist, we have a certain lingo, marketing, if you work in marketing, you have a certain lingo, you have certain shortcuts and phrases and things that you all are perfectly understand, but anybody outside the industry wouldn't have a clue. We're still on David Tennant and Doctor Who. So it's my fault for mentioning him, but great. Yes. Yeah. Yes, good idea. Draw on plot lines from Doctor Who and find ways to relate that back to your own content. Yeah, exactly.
No, you know what you're doing this afternoon, don't you? Actually, what you need to do is put it into ChatGPT. Can you see when it comes?
Yes,
yes. Random.
Yes.
Anyway, says jargon and acronyms and inside knowledge. Oh my, yeah, that's awful. Having your own jokes.
Exactly. I spend a lot of time kind of spelling things out. Because you want to make it easy for your reader to understand. And if they think, oh, what's that? What does that? I don't understand that. I'm going to have to go away and Google it. They might not bother. They might just go away and Google it and give up and go somewhere else. Actually, just there's nothing. I think clear and simple communication is really, really powerful. Nobody will go, oh, that's a bit basic, isn't it? No, it's if you can. Good storytelling is when you get your message across simply and clearly.
God, now I'm just thinking of the Hearsay song, Pure and Simple. Anyway, on that's just so random today. I'm so sorry.
Hearsay.
Yeah, that's what came into my head. Vegetable emojis and it's my afternoon. Anyway, so thank you all very much for joining us. I hope you've had fun. We have.
Yes, we have definitely had fun.
And if you found this show useful, please do share a link with others, leave a comment or whatever, you know what I mean, socials always works.
Yes.
And there will be a replay as well, so if people want to tune in afterwards, they certainly can.
Yes, yeah, the replay will appear here once we have finished the broadcast. So yeah, do share that. And we will be back on actually we've changed the date, haven't we? Are we going for the
7 plus 7? 24th of May.
24th of Friday, the 24th of May, which is the Friday after. Sorry, I didn't update my script. Sorry. The Friday after UK Reef, we're going to be talking about. Are we going to reveal what we're going to be talking about?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah,
we actually came up with. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, we're gonna yes. Are we? No. Are we going to reveal it? No, we're not. We're keeping it secret. No, we're going to reveal it. Yeah, okay. So next time, which is the Friday after UK Reef, we're going to be talking about how to maximize the content from the show. From
events, basically.
If you've been there, and what you can do to maximize what you know, all the stuff that you produced, got out of it, all of that kind of stuff. Yes, all the stories that you can tell from UK Reef. See what I did there?
And I'll be telling stories when I'm there, that's for sure, always. Thank you so much for joining us anyway. I hope you've enjoyed it. And we'll stop making you laugh.
And hopefully see you next time.
Take care.